Morrison, the message from Tony Abbott to your troops seems like a typical small target strategy, very different from the approach that he took in his Battle Lines book of those big ideas, big spending initiatives. This seems to be just keep your head under the parapet at the moment.
Well, we've announced a whole range of policies this year, starting with the direct action on the environment in the beginning of this year. In my own area, we've announced quite a number of policies. The government doesn't want to talk about our policies too much in the area of border protection. Maybe we will later. We've announced policies on paid parental leave. The government's paid parental leave scheme will go through the parliament, but what the voters will have an offer to them when they go to the polls later this year is a better scheme, a scheme that is a genuine fair income series of payments to women in the workforce and fathers in the workforce, for that matter, depending on who's taking the role of carer.
On the government's negotiations, I just want to drill down a little bit. Excuse the pun.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, I'll let you respond to that as well. But let's just look at the negotiations that we've seen. I mean, the Prime Minister says they're all going well.
Yeah.
We've seen one image of a person this week, and it's been handed out everywhere, that image of the petroleum gas negotiations yesterday. You've come up with one company.
Oh, well,
it's not really a compelling case to say, yes, our negotiations are going well. No one else will let you in the door with a camera.
Well, for every company that is saying that there's not real consultation, there's a dozen that are involved in real negotiations.
Where are the images? We've seen one company yesterday.
Well, as Minister Ferguson has said, it's important that those discussions occur confidentially, and that he was respecting the confidentiality of those discussions. And he is talking to a lot of companies about the detail of how this will work. But just back to that point about Tony Abbott, I was talking to a bloke the other day, and he said, "Do you work for Kevin Rudd or the Underpants Man?" Now, I reckon Tony Abbott.
That's the contribution to the debate today, talking about underpants.
This is what a bloke said to me the other day at the railway station. He said, "Do you work for Kevin Rudd or the Underpants Man?" Right. Now, I think Tony Abbott would like to be the Underpants Man.
You have just gone to the bottom drawer.
Well,
you may as well put up the white flag if you're going to talk about underpants.
Well, I didn't know what colour they were, but this bloke was telling me, "Do you work for Kevin Rudd or the Underpants Man?"
This is Kevin Rudd's defence.
Now, you saw it in the change in Tony Abbott. You saw the change in Tony Abbott over the last week. Normally, he's out there fighting and yelling and screaming in Parliament. Someone's got to him. I think Crosby Textor have told him, don't say anything in Parliament, because suddenly he's really sitting there very quiet. He doesn't want people to know that he's the bloke that would bring back work choices, that would cut funding for health,
that's not true,
and would cut funding to education. And don't say that's not true, because you've already announced it.
Smears and underpants. That's the government's defence.
I wouldn't put those two together, mate. But if you want to put those two together, that's up to you.
Can we move on from... it's breakfast time. Let's move on from the undergarment debate.
We won't talk about golden retrievers, okay?
No, please not. Senator Steve Hutchins apparently told the caucus yesterday that there needs to be a deadline on when this issue, mining tax, needs to be resolved. Simon Crean believes that there wasn't enough consultation done in this process as well. He said that a couple of weeks ago. There seems to be some concern about Kevin Rudd's capacity, and not some concern, quite extensive concern among the caucus about his capacity to turn this all around.
No, I disagree with that fundamentally. Everybody wants to get it done expeditiously. I said that. Everybody wants to get it right. But the caucus is one on this. We think this is the right reform for Australia. And I said it on your program last week. I spoke to a bloke the other day, and it wasn't the Underpants Man bloke, but it was a bloke who was asking me questions about this, and I said, do you know that as a result of this reform, if you're on an average wage, you'll get an extra $108,000 when you retire in your super? And he said to me, well, you've won me. He understood that point. The message we've got to get out there is that this is big reform that'll set us up for the future, and it'll mean that every company pays less tax, it'll make them more competitive, and it'll make sure that every Australian worker gets more super. When the Australian public hears that, they give it a big tick.
Simon Crean, I mentioned him a little earlier. He was asked about those comments in question time yesterday. He gave a forceful defence of the government's handling of the whole tax.
We will continue to have them with the industry to achieve a sensible outcome for the future of this country. And the sooner you get on board and support that direction, the better for this country.
Simon Crean gave a strong performance yesterday. Isn't this an example of where, you know, the Prime Minister should be using the experience on his front bench more, consulting more with the Cabinet, and maybe the stuff-ups might not have happened as much as they have?
Well, I'll dispute that again. He gave a forceful response. So has Julia Gillard. So has Lindsay Tanner when he's spoken about these things. So has Wayne Swan. Whenever any member of the caucus...
Cabinet.
No. Well, I've just mentioned... I mentioned people that are outside that committee. Simon Crean is a good example of that. Craig Emerson, when he's on this program, talks about these reforms and the importance of implementing them. The government is one on this. Whenever I speak to any of my colleagues, they make the same point. This is the right reform for Australia, and it will set us up for the future. It will make the economy stronger and create jobs.
But that's not the point, Jason. I mean, the issue here is that there are 4 people making decisions in this government. Just 4.
No, that's incorrect.
The gang of 4 have made decisions on all the big things, and frankly all the big stuff-ups as well. And so when it comes to making choices between Chairman Rudd or Madam Gillard, they are all responsible for these same decisions. That is the group of people that are making decisions. Simon Crean was left out of the loop on this, as was the Resources Minister. They admitted as much yesterday in the Parliament. You've got these 4 people who aren't talking to anyone, who aren't listening to anyone. They are just steamrolling ahead with all of these decisions, which are costing taxpayers billions and billions. And we've got the situation with the mining tax at the moment, which is writ large the failure of Kevin Rudd's process.
I'll give you one example which shows that is just fundamentally wrong. In the budget, there's a $600 million package, a skills package, which includes more money for apprentices, more money for literacy and numeracy, guaranteed training for young people. It was a package that was put together by me, Mark Habib and Julia Gillard working together. So they're all members of the government are working on these things. And I tell you what, that package also includes $200 million to help to provide skills to the mining industry because we expect jobs to grow.
Just a quick response and then we've got to take a break and we'll get back and talk about other issues.
Well, there's no doubt that policies percolate, but at the end of the day, 4 people make the decision. The gang of 4 make the decisions on this government. And I think that's what worries people. And I think that was the point Peter Walsh was making. This government does not consult.
Okay, time for a quick break. Stay with us.